Welcome, everybody. Bienvenue à tous. We are back again, everybody, with this new episode of this series, Stay Safe, with the leaders in security and private investigation and public safety, etc. A series where we explore leaders, how leaders are navigating into today's business challenges and making a significant impact in it. How we can help businesses amplify the message and scale the reach. And finally, we love learning here. So it's always pure gold to be around people like we got today. Today, we are accompanied with a reference in this industry. How can I call that? A big fish, I would say, in private investigation, known under Blackfish Intelligence, based in Texas. I don't want to say too much. Everybody, Daryl Parker. Daryl, please introduce yourself to people.
Hi, Amos. Thanks for having me. Yes, my name is Daryl Parker. I'm the president of Blackfish Intelligence. We are a full service private investigations company located in McKinney, Texas.
Yeah, perfect. For the people who are watching us today, last time we spoke, you mentioned your interest in introducing Blackfish to a wider audience. Obviously, you're not only operating in Texas, promoting your work beyond the United States is kind of something you also want to do. So let's see how we can make the most out of it today. All right. So for the people watching us today, here's the structure of how it's gonna go. We're gonna start with like a little background in how fascinated, like how was Blackfish fascinated and like how it began, and especially in your transition from like the law enforcement and the
Right.
Marine Corps to the business. Then after that, we're gonna explore trends and how you see in the private investigation industry and how Blackfish is kind of addressing challenges and the lack of oversight and limited resources for defenses. Then we're going to dive into Blackfish itself, particularly like your team-based approach, advanced resources like digital forensics, sorry, and TSCM, and your upcoming academy. And then we'll have a short segments of what I call the 10 and 2. And finally, we'll wrap it up with discussing your vision with Blackfish Intelligence and where you see the company heading in the next 6, 12 months and beyond.
Okay.
How does that sound?
Great. Let's do it.
Good. Perfect. Well, Daryl, you have an impressive background. I'm read a little bit about it. You told me a little bit about it. So now it's for the people to know about it, from the Marine Corps to a police officer to criminal investigation. Eris, everything about it, your journey, your experience, and then ultimately how this led you to Blackfish Intelligence. What was the driving vision behind creating the firm?
Well, I'm kind of old. I'm 60 years old, so it's bit of a long story, but I'll make it short. I spent 21 years in the Marine Corps. I retired in 2005 as an officer, a chief warrant officer. I became a police officer. I served as a police officer in McKinney, also in Fannin County at the sheriff's office. While I was there, I became the lead instructor at a police academy. So I was teaching police academy classes at the same time. But my educational benefits from the military were about to expire. So I had to go back to college to get those. So I went back to college. I got my master's degree. I got my master's degree from SMU in social rights and human justice. It's a liberal arts degree, but it was perfect for what I went into, which was private investigation. From there, I started doing private investigation work for the Innocence Project of Texas because they really need an investigative arm. And once I got involved in that work, I saw where the cracks in the criminal justice system really were. So I, along with three other partners, we started Blackfish Intelligence. And originally we did it as a cost saving measure. Why pay insurance 4 times when you can just pay it once, right? Started as a cost saving measure, but it really developed into something a lot more powerful because we understood that once you put that team together with all those capabilities, you create a synergy that allows you to do better work for more people.
Perfect. Wow, that's so yeah, we kind of talk about Blackfish being more of a team-based approach. You told me last time about when people hire like investigators or defense, how there's a big difference in having a team and just a single individual. How is that really, like how does that matter for someone to actually get more than just one person, or like trust more than just a person?
Right. Well, really, the power is because any one person, no matter what their qualifications are, perhaps they can do an adequate job, but there's no way that one person can match the capabilities of a team, particularly when you throw the specialties in there. So we have a saying here at Blackfish, when you hire one of us, you get all of us. And that means criminal investigators who have years and years of experience. You have the digital forensics lab, which can do all the digital forensics in the case. We've got people who do surveillance. We've got people who do backgrounds. We've got the entire spectrum of private investigation capabilities. So if you have all of that you can bring to bear on a case, and not just the capabilities, but also the numbers. We have 20 investigators. So with that many investigators, if we need two or three or five, we can put them together on a case.
Yeah, when we talked the first time, you mentioned me why you want like you kind of went into the criminal justice system, the lack of like the critical issue and lack of oversight and the imbalance of resources between like the state and the defense. Can you elaborate a little more on the impact of the disparity, sorry, and how Blackfish actually works to ensure that proper defense prevents wrongful like convictions?
So, I also, when I was in the Marine Corps, I was also a unit legal officer. So I saw, the legal system, how it functioned, at least in the military, had some collateral experience with civilian law enforcement also. But once I retired and I became a police officer, then I really got to see how the system worked from the government side, right? The law enforcement side, the district attorney, the prosecution, and so on and so forth. And it just seemed to me that it was really, really one sided. Now, we all want the bad guy to be identified. We want him to be held accountable. We want him, we want justice, but it's got to be done right. And we already know through the Innocence Project work, which really opened my eyes, we know that there are a lot of people that have been convicted that are innocent. And we see them being freed all the time, freed after 25 years, that kind of thing. And so I saw that a defendant has all of this power set against him. He had the police department, the police detectives. You've got the forensics labs. You've got the experts that the state calls, the medical experts, and the so on and so forth. And you've got the prosecutor's office, and you've got their investigators. You've got all of that piled against the defendant. What does the defendant have? He has an attorney, if he can afford one, or one gets appointed to him, and that's it. Now, yes, it's true. That defense attorney can request and can be granted services. They can assign an investigator like me to that case. They can get a court order for that. They can get court orders to do lab testing and so on and so forth. But the point is, a lot of attorneys go through cases and they never even hire an investigator. They just try to do it all on their own. And so we've proven through our work, we've actually exonerated one man. His name is Benjamin Spencer, fantastic human being. He was in prison for 34 years for a murder that he did not commit,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
And what we find in these Innocence Project cases is that in every single case of a wrongful conviction, there was a flawed law enforcement investigation at the heart of it. Every single one. And so the only way that you can fight something like that is to make sure that you have a robust defense before the person's convicted. Because after they're convicted, the standard to get that person released is so high, it's almost impossible. Very, very difficult. So, Blackfish, what we do is when we go into a case, we do a better job than law enforcement. Now, we have some advantages, right? We get to see everything that the prosecution has. And then we get to develop our own evidence and our own witnesses and so on and so forth. But we hold them accountable. We make sure that their investigation was done correctly, and if they made mistakes, we call them out on it.
Yeah. I'm from Canada. Yeah, you were talking about the defense. I've been once to court for a friend's kind of problem, and yeah, I do understand how like yeah, the defense really lack a lot of resources, and again, it's really different from the United States to Canada. Yeah, and like I still feel like yeah, like the way things are going today and nowadays, and the societies today, it's still important to make sure both sides are taken care of and with equal kind of terms a little bit, or what with more equity. So no, I relate a lot to this. Obviously, it's very different from two different countries, but I think there's a real mission behind, yeah, behind what you're doing. Yeah, I kind of I'm a kind of in awe a little bit of how you kind of went into something that's usually really seen as bad from, again, people that are not really invested in it.
Yeah, and that's, a lot of this was about education too. You're not just educating the public, but you're also educating the attorneys. A lot of attorneys don't know how to use private investigators. A lot of them have had bad experiences with private investigators because, um, honestly, in my industry, the bar is not very high. You can
Yep.
be a private investigator with a very little experience. But here's one thing that people need to understand. Law enforcement has had 170, 180 years of training and progression and resources to get to where they're at now. You know, private investigation is getting there. We are constantly working on bringing the bar up, improving the standards, making it more challenging to become a licensed private investigator so that people know who they're hiring. And when it comes to criminal work in particular, you really need to know what you're doing because the consequences for the defendant, I mean, they could spend the rest of their life in prison.
Yeah. You talked about, yeah, private investigators kind of, since it's kind of new, you're saying it can really be pretty much anybody. But again, from my experience in court, I remember kind of seeing attorneys like with this force of character, because it's not easy to defend someone, obviously, this force of character, people that almost you kind of scared a little bit of because they're really serious people. And by that, I kind of go to this question of what type of people you hire, what type of people you're surrounded with, at Blackfish at least, or the people you would like to see more in this industry.
Well, that's That's a good question because private investigation, it covers the whole spectrum. It's not just criminal. And in fact, what most people don't realize is that private investigation is really, really important to the way our criminal justice system works, but also the civil system works. Because in criminal justice, you've got the police. That's what they're supposed to do, right? And then we are supposed to be the check and balance to make sure they did their job right. But when you talk about civil law, family law, so on and so forth, you don't have the police are not there. They're not involved in that. And so who fills the gap? Private investigation has to fill the gap. And so you need quality investigators. And a lot of times that comes from law enforcement. Most of our investigators that do criminal work are former law enforcement, former police officers, right? But also you've got surveillance specialists. They don't need to be prior police officers. They can be anybody as long as they can learn the art of surveillance and be good at it. We have to have background people, people that are very good online searchers and they can take all of these different platforms and learn them and find out where all the information is. So there's not one profile that I look for at Blackfish because we have different missions for different divisions.
Um, and now, yeah, y'all stand out with like the digital forensics and like the labs and the TSCM division. Tell me more about that. And like, you're even opening, yeah, exactly, the academy. So tell me more about that and
Yeah.
how these special capabilities provide a superior service to your clients and provide a goal of becoming a leader in your industry.
So I would say that we're sort of breaking the mold, or actually, I would think we're making a new mold for private investigation companies. And I'm not saying that we're the only one that is doing this, but most of the time, private investigators are one person, maybe two, right? It's just one person who's doing it all by himself, and that's all he's got. If he needs digital forensics, then he hires a digital forensics lab. If he needs TSCM, he hires somebody to do that. So they subcontract these things out. We learned a long time ago that we want to have control of the process. We want to make sure that our product is consistent, and we want to make sure that we can provide these services to people like that. You know, sometimes if you're trying to hire an outside lab or an agency, they might be backed up, and they might not get to your case for 2 months. So we decided early on to make the investment in these emerging technologies. And now I can tell you it's way different than it was 10 years ago. 10 years ago, you might use digital forensics on, you know, 10% of the cases. Now we use digital forensics on virtually every case. Sometimes it's not the whole digital forensics package. Sometimes it's just checking things, but digital forensics, background investigations. Witness impeachment has become a huge, it's always been a thing, but the tools to do really deep dives on these witnesses hasn't really existed before now, hasn't been
Hmm.
taken advantage of. So we said we're going to be the most capable private investigations company that we could be. So we brought all these services under our umbrella. We have subject matter experts. So if you're in a murder case and it involves somebody with a firearm, somebody using force against somebody else, we have a use of force expert. We have a firearms expert. We have a list of experts that can testify at trial also.
Yeah. Again, just bringing up to the academy point of view of it, like,
Uh,
tell us more about, yeah.
yeah.
That question was big, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like, yeah, again, tell us more about the academy. How now this is sinking in this kind of system, and how we can now spread it away.
Yeah. So there is the Criminal Defense Investigator Training Council. That's kind of the gold standard in my industry. It's by a
Mhm.
private investigator named Brandon Perone. He established it. It's very well known. All of the public defenders' offices send their investigators to it. All the military branches send their investigators to it. Many law enforcement agencies send their investigators to it. So it's a very, very highly regarded course and institution. And it's one of the institutions that is raising the bar in private investigations, but it is entirely focused on criminal division, on criminal work. And so we work across the spectrum and we've been in business now for full years. And we thought, where is the equivalent to that for everything else? The civil, the family, the government, the corporate, all those kinds of things. And also, a lot of the courses in the criminal work are sort of foundational, and we need some more courses in the criminal work that are mechanical. Like, here's how the sausage is made. And so, our purpose in starting the academy, and by the way, we're partnering with Brandon Perone. So, we're not just, this is not just our product we're throwing out there. We are also partnering with Brandon Perone so that we are linked to his level of competence and expertise. And I think that once we get the academy published and up and running, which will be in just a couple of months, I think it will become in 2 or 3 years, it's going to become the cornerstone educational platform for private investigators across the country.
Um, do you want to make the academy more of like something digital, like, yeah, again, something that's not necessarily like in person, something that's spread a little around the United States, or like a base, more like a headquarter or some, or like basements all around the states?
Sure. We want to spread that information and we want everyone to have availability to these courses across the country. So the academy will be online. All the courses will be online. There will be some courses that are taught on site. And so maybe 4 to 6 times a year there will be an on-site course taught at the academy.
Now, what if I'm a Canadian guy, and I'm really interested in all this. Again, my system's really different from yours, but I'm really more interested in like the system in the United States. Blackfish is really interesting. Also, would I have the possibility or the opportunity to get in
Sure.
there? Yeah,
We're not limiting admission to the classes to licensed private investigators because there are a lot of people who want to be private investigators and they don't know what it's about yet. Some of them are in different, every single state has its regulations as to what it takes to become a private investigator. So some of them need to get the education before they can get licensed. So it will be open to anybody that wants to take the course.
perfect. And now you're going through that exactly my kind of second question. I don't want to gatekeep, but you told me about it last time. Again, you're in Texas. It can be really different from how people operate in Montana or Pennsylvania. Are you also operating in those areas, or like even abroad, or like other countries? You can tell us about that too.
So Blackfish itself, we operate primarily in Texas, but we've done cases all over the place. And there are certain, every time you do a case in another state, you have to check that state's regulations. You have to see what it is you have to do to be able to operate there. And so that's on a case by case basis. You have to figure that out. And just to address that from the academy perspective, right? These courses are general courses that anybody can take. there will be caveats that will say you must check your own state's regulations and laws. These are written primarily for Texas, but we plan
Mhm.
on also getting the courses accredited. There are 7 states, Texas, California, there's 7 of them. Those are the big states for private investigators, and we're gonna try to become accredited in each of those 7 states.
Okay. Um, yeah, you told me about Spain. I don't. Yeah, I want people to know about Spain, Canada. If there's something there, yeah, I want people to know about it too. You don't just operate in the states. You wanna go abroad. You wanna have a bigger impact because yeah, defense is something that happens all over the world. So you wanna also have a foot in there everywhere.
So there are a lot of great investigators around the world. And the way you conduct an overseas investigation, there's 2 different ways. One is you find a person in that country who's a great investigator who can do the work over there, and then you connect the dots. Or you go over there and you connect with a local great investigator, and you are a team and you work on that issue over there in that country. So there's 2 different ways you can do it. We've worked in Spain, we've done work in Hawaii, we've done a case in Brazil, those kind of things. So overseas work is challenging because you definitely have to know what the laws are. And that's why it's really important to have a broad global network where you can reach out and say, hey, I've got a case in Brazil. I need a really good investigator for this type of an issue. And then you'll have a bunch of people that will say, oh, this guy, this guy, this guy. And then you make the connection. And then, you'll have a quality investigator that you can partner up with.
So it's also an industry that's really not based, but that's really focused on also like networking and partnership. So
Yes,
you partner with a lot of people, even in Texas, even abroad, etc. So no, that's really good. And again, about the academy, when you like telling me that pretty much anybody could join the academy,
that's right.
does that also brings kind of a strength in okay, this person in the academy was in let's say in New York. So that person now is really strong in New York. Is that helping you also be strong in New York or like
Yes.
having a better
Yes.
like
The other thing about the academy is, there are online courses that you can take, and they're just from a course catalog. It's course, 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 and you just pick a course, right? But ours are going to be aligned in tracks. Yes, you can just take a course, but what you want is a certification. You want a certification that says, I am qualified at this level. I'm qualified at this level. And so you can take a separate course, but you can also take the entire track. And at the end of that track, you're certified. And so that gives you more authority and more credibility when you go to testify in court and that sort of thing. And so Blackfish's reputation at this point in Texas is fantastic. We have a big footprint. People know the quality of work that we do. And we want to, just like we're aligning ourselves with Brandon Perone for the Academy, we want to align ourselves with similar PI firms in the entire United States and overseas.
okay, good. Yeah, no, I'm really impressed with the work right now. And yeah, the answers are flowing. I love it. Kind of my fan for the segment that I call the 10 and 2 minutes. Sure. So it's very simple. 10 questions, 2 minutes. Each question has a value of 1 point. Quick extra explanation is 2 points. So it's a kind of 3 point question. You can
Okay.
skip the question if you think it's gonna take too long or if you think you don't have the answer right now. But that's a deductive -1 point.
Okay.
Again, those questions are straight entertainment, nothing about the industry or the business. We just want to know a little bit more about Daryl Parker. Yeah. Are we ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Perfect. If you want to explain a little more about the extra point, obviously you can talk a little bit, but remember, yeah, you're losing time a little bit with it. I'm gonna have a timer right here. I'm gonna give you extra 10 seconds. As soon as you start answering the first question, that's where it goes.
Okay.
Ready?
Yep.
Perfect. So first question, what would you try if you knew you wouldn't fail?
If I knew that I wouldn't fail, I think I would try uh, being in a band.
Being a band, great.
Being in a
um,
band.
what's your most significant childhood memory?
Hmm. Well, I spent a lot of time in my childhood outdoors with my father, camping and fishing, that sort of thing.
If you could master a skill instantly, what would it be?
Playing the guitar.
Do you think there is more doors or wheels in the world?
I'm sorry, more what?
Doors or wheels in the world?
I think there are more
100 decently human beings and two gorillas against two gorillas. Who ends up being the winner?
the gorillas.
The
Easy.
gorillas? If
Gorillas.
you if you had to describe your perfect day, what would it look like?
Well, I don't know what the whole thing would look like, but the end would be sitting around a campfire, having a nice glass of wine, and just listening to some music.
Great. What title would you give to this era of your life?
The golden years, because I mean, it's my life is fantastic. I'm very busy. I have a great family, and I love it.
What's something that you're most passionate about and that people don't know?
Hmm. Passionate about that people don't know. I think they don't know that I am actually a closet treasure hunter.
Why is that? Do you want to explain more about it?
Well, there used to be a guy named Forrest Fenn. He put out this treasure. It was out for like 10 years. It was a big deal. Tens of thousands of people went out to look for it, and it finally got found. But I had some great adventures going out and looking for it myself.
What's the most interesting place you've been to and why?
London, England.
Timer
It was just a great cultural place to go visit. I mean, it's just the achievements in England or in London are just amazing.
for my own entertainment. I know the timer is done, but if you could have a dinner, because I'm kind of really interested, if you could have dinner with any historical or current big personality like figure,
Yep.
who would it be?
George Washington.
George Washington. Great.
And
Yeah,
and
no,
I say that because, he's the father of our country and he did all these great things and he really was a great, great man. But at the same time, there's a lot of mystery about him. And I would like to sit down with him and really get to know him.
you answered to everything. You got a lot of points. I didn't count them yet, but I'll make sure you get updated in the board. This was amazing. Thank you for answering the questions. Let's just talk about the rest. Looking ahead, you mentioned being poised by becoming one of the leaders in your industry. What's the key objective and growth targets you're aiming for Blackfish Intelligence and in the next half year, year?
Well, we want to continue our mission with reform in the criminal justice system, obviously, right? And we want to probably expand our work with the Innocence Project. But of course, to do that, from a business perspective, we have to be successful and grow the business. So I think within the next 3 years, we want to have the academy fully running and successful. We want to have our other divisions up and successful, and we want to get into the government contracting space, right? So from a business perspective, that's kind of where we're going. And I think that with the academy, Blackfish will become a national name versus a primarily Texas name. And so I think we can achieve that within 3 years, 5 years at the most.
Okay. If you had a magic wand to fix one thing in a private investigation or just in regular investigation industry that's holding you back and holding other people back, what would that thing be?
I think it would be the pay scale in criminal work because all of the things that private investigators do, from criminal to family law to civil to corporate to government, that's how the money goes, right? And the thing that is the most important and is the most impactful to people's lives pays the least amount of money. And it requires the most amount of skill. It has the biggest consequences. And the pay scale needs to be expanded so that we can keep quality people doing this and they can make a living at it, at this important work.
Yeah, no, that's really insightful today. I'm kind of happy. I also want to talk a little bit more about your own goals, future goals. I know we haven't
Yeah.
talked much about family. I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of wondering a lot about it. And I felt kind of cheap not to ask. I know, but I generally like really think that's what forges the person or the people. Yeah, if you want to tell us a little more about them and how this is going.
Yeah. So my wife and I, Jennifer, we're a blended family, and that means I have 3 children and she has 2 children, so we have 5 children. They're all great. They're all out on their own. They're all adults, so we're empty nesters. But we're very very proud of them all. They're doing fantastic. So I feel really blessed in where we're at with our family. My wife also has her own business interests, and that's going well also. But I'm 60 years old, and before I'm 70, We want to look at slowing down and sort of, smelling the roses because right now it's just work, 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 work.
Yeah, I
And
imagine. Yeah.
so we need to spend some time traveling. We need to spend some time doing some of the things we want to do.
Yeah, so the time's gonna come soon. I hope that a lot for you. Um, no, honestly, it was incredibly insightful. As I said, thank you for sharing all these valuable perspectives. It's truly inspiring to hear about like Blackfish Intelligence and like how, yeah, it's not just the strength of one person, but a lot of people working together, and how, yeah, the force of a group makes you go further than just one person. No, how an overlooked system of defense has to kind of have people like you exactly making sure it's set well. Because even if it's been in the last constitution, et cetera, it's important to make sure it's straight as well. So, no, a lot of innovations. I love it. I'm full in technology. I love what you guys are doing, and I wish only the best for you. So, if I had only one question for this, if you could choose a title for this podcast episode, what would it be?
Ooh.
Question for $1 million.
Hey, here it would be the future of private investigations.
Perfect. Fantastic. Well, it will be the future of private investigation. Now, I appreciate you a lot. For the people at home, at work, in the street, no matter why you're watching this, this was Daryl Parker. We'll put below this video all the information about Blackfish Intelligence. Thank you again, Daryl, sorry, for being a part of this and playing along. I'm really grateful and wish you all the best and a good day.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having me, Amos. Thank you.
Thank you.